Malolele, my name is Joanna Bourke and I'm from Cocoa New here in Tonga, but also represent Nishi Trading here in the Kingdom of Tonga. The name of my business case is Don't Underestimate the Manioke. And manioke is also known as cassava throughout the Pacific. And manioke here is a staple food here in the diet, in the Tongan diet. But it is also right down on the bottom of the food chain as not being a very important crop. And if people see you eating manioke, it is often kind of frowned upon, and you're often seen as being someone poor who eats manioke. But anyway, that aside, after Cyclone Gita in 2018, the value and the price of cassava has really gone up because of all the other food crops that were pretty much wiped out during the cyclone. After the cyclone, cassava was the only starch that was plentiful in supply. So often we hear of farmers or groups of farmers that get together, grow cassava, harvest it, and process it. And when I say process it, all they do is clean it and peel it, and then they cut it into chunks, put into large plastic bags, and send them or put them into a refrigerated container and send them off to where there are lots of Tongan people, New Zealand, Australia, and the US. Now, sounds great. And for those people that do get to those markets and sell their 20-foot containers of frozen cassava, make really good money. And because we hear often of those people that are doing that, other farmers around Tonga and throughout the kingdom think that that's a very lucrative business. But what often happens is they're going into these markets without proper planning, and they actually don't have confirmed sales before they actually send the containers off. So what they're doing is they're sending these containers off to Australia, New Zealand, and the US. They're relying on word of mouth, their Tongan networks, the Coconut Wireless, as well as Tongan radio program, to advise people that they've got this fresh cassava or frozen cassava that has come all the way from Tonga. Some people will go and buy, but often we hear of farmers who are going in and who are left with unsold cassava, or they have sold cassava only to find that they can't collect the money from people to pay, and quite often they're out of pocket. So my business case is to look at organising farmers formally, to look at what opportunities are available domestically as well as internationally. So here domestically in Tonga, we've got cassava chip processors, and we know that Tonga, like the rest of the Pacific, rely heavily on imported snacks, and they're quite expensive and always not healthy. So we have a couple of processors here that make cassava chips from fresh white cassava. And what we're hearing is that these cassava chip processors cannot get their hands on enough cassava to be able to process these chips to keep up with the demand. And at $1 a bag, they're very tasty, and they're very healthy because they're making them with coconut oil as well, which is sourced locally. Then we also know that there's an opportunity to supply cassava into formal export markets or international markets, especially in New Zealand and Australia, where we know that there is a demand for healthier starches and healthier root crops such as cassava. And we have a couple of farmers here, or farming organisations or farmer groups, that actually get together and supply cassava to these international markets, notably in New Zealand and Australia. So again, what we're hearing is that these exporters can't keep up with the demand from New Zealand and Australia. So we want that, which is why we want to bring these cassava farmers together so that they can tap into these lucrative and sort of confirm markets when they are looking at growing cassava and harvesting. What have I learnt from using the OPPO tools? It's taught me to actually look at what is not working and what could work properly for our cassava farmers. And when you put this business lens on when looking at the opportunities, it allows you to, you've got to do the SWOT analysis, have a look at what is happening, what isn't happening, what the opportunities are, and using the tools, the OPPO tools, to be able to really pinpoint what will actually work and what you need to do to be able to make a model work, like supplying raw cassava to local chips processors and looking at ways where the farmers can actually retain more of their margin and actually add value themselves before it goes off to a processor. Some advice that I would give those of you who are working on your business cases around using the OPPO tools is make sure that you talk to as many players and operators or farmers that are currently in the market, because everyone has a different story to tell. And when you gather all that information, then you're able to get a real good picture of what is happening in the market instead of just focusing on one or two people. And yes, it could be quite daunting going to talk to different people, but you actually have to take that time out and create relationships with people, because that makes for my business case, bringing the farmers together a lot easier when you've got all this information to be able to present to them, show them what has been happening, what could happen, and how we can get to where we want to. So all the best with your farm or your business cases, and malo a bito.